Welcome back. Peer Through Time, Part 2 of 7. Where we left off last time, we were talking about the different mana sources and why they're very useful. In this case, I believe I left off Sky Diamond, or I was just starting to talk about it. It's not a Mox, obviously, it's a different type of mana source, and then you have things like Sapphire, Medallion, which makes things cost less, so you cast 2 or 3 spells in a turn, and that works out very well. Then we talk about these 3 artifacts. Mindstone's an old card. I've actually been passing these out to new Commander players because it's just a good card. And then they go and print it in the 2014 Commander sets. It's 2 mana, taps for 1 colorless, pay 1 and sacrifice it to draw a card. It's the kind of card that they actually recreated it as a triple effect with Dreamstone Hadron. Dreamstone Hadron taps for 3, and 3 and tap, sacrifice, draw 3 cards. For 6 mana, not bad. Then they made this intermediary one, Commander's Sphere. Taps for any color in the Commander's color identity, and it sacrifices to draw a card. This is an interesting take on things. Really, the middle part of these two would be a 4 casting cost artifact that would tap for 2, and then, of course, 2 tap to sacrifice to draw a card. But then you have Urgolem's Eye, which doesn't do that. Susei's Ring, the same thing as Urgolem's Eye, doesn't do it. 4 and taps for 2 colorless. The only other one would be the Thran Dynamo, which is 4 and taps for 3 colorless. If they had the middle version of it, where it was 4 tap for 2 and then 2 tap, draw 2 cards, I think that would be just powerful enough that they might not be able to do that. Although that's probably pushing it a little bit. So these are the mana sources for the deck, in addition to the 38 lands. Well, that mana, you need to examine what you're trying to do. I mean, what do we do with this kind of mana? That's when we talk about where blue gets its advantage, and that's from card draw. There are consistent card draw, there are actual card draws, and then there are the inconsistent card draws, the just about good enough. That's not a perfect type of card draw. Things like that would include Muldrifter to draw 2 cards immediately. Fathoms here, 2 cards immediately. Concentrate, 3 cards. Intellectual Offering, 3 cards and untap. Rush of Knowledge, equal to the highest converted mana cost. Stroke of Genius, equal to X. Azure Mage, 3-1 blue, repeatable card draw, built into a creature, much like Sphinx of Magosi. 2-1 blue, draw a card, and you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Storm Surge Kraken, when you have Teferi in play or any other commander you want to play, gets +2/+2, and whenever it's blocked, you may draw 2 cards. These are consistent types of card draw. And then there's a card draw where you give something up in order to use it, like Well of Ideas. You immediately draw 2 cards just for it coming into play. So this costs 6 mana. If you say the average amount of mana to spend for drawing a card would be, say, 2, then this would pay for those extra 2 cards you're drawing. It would normally cost 1-1 blue, or 2 mana. But because it's that extra, I mean, it takes 6 mana to get out, it's obviously something you're not going to get out on turn 2. So you get the effect. Your opponent gets to draw an extra card, similar to Howling Mine, but then you draw 2 additional cards during your draw step. So it's that much better. You're always getting the advantage. But it's the kind of card you keep it out, and people actually want you on the field. They want you to have it, because they get cards too. And now let's talk about conditional card draw. Seagate Oracle isn't a true card draw. But when it comes into play, you look at the top 2 cards, put 1 into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. Similar to Teferi's roll-up ability. You look at the top 2 cards, 1 goes into your hand, the other one, bottom of your library. Riptide Survivor, you draw 2 cards, you discard 2 cards, then you draw 3 cards. That's a good ability. That kind of works. Then Compulsive Research, you draw 3 cards, then you discard 2 unless you discard a land card. Nice ability. It's like the one from Mirrodin or Scars of Mirrodin. Draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards unless one of them is an artifact. Now, obviously, you're drawing a bunch of lands in a deck like this. You might even keep one in your hand in anticipation of this card. But why? It's an inconsistent card draw, but it's not bad. call to mind. Although not technically a card draw, it's still a very good card. But it's up there. You can get something back out of the graveyard specifically. It's why Regrowth is such a good card, except this is only an instant or sorcery. But this is a very good card, especially later on in the game. Or against Mill. And then the Sphinx at Luthun, if I'm pronouncing that right. You reveal the top 5 cards, and then an opponent separates those cards into 2 piles, and you put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Now, in multiplayer, you want to pick somebody who's going to be really friendly, and who knows, they might do 4 and 1, or if that's even possible, they might do a pile of 0 and a pile of 5. You take the pile of 5, exactly. It's also a very interesting card because unlike the other ones that say, other ones in this deck where it has to come into play from your hand, this one is repeatable if you can get it into play from some flicker effect or Conjurer's Closet, that type of thing. And again, it's not a true card draw. Sorry about the focus going in and out. So now let's look at a different type of card advantage, something that's kind of very unusual for blue, and that's Reefworm. Reefworm is the type of card that should not exist for blue. It's more of a green ability, really. When it dies, you get a 3/3 fish token, that thing right there in the background. And then when the fish token dies, you get a whale creature. When the whale creature dies, you get a kraken creature. So every time, yeah, I mean, it just keeps replenishing itself using different token cards. Let's see if I can pull those up to show you. See the first one. There's the fish, becomes this fish here. Fish in the background, you see the whale. The whale, which you can clearly see right here, has in the background of it the kraken. And then the kraken, well, it kind of, okay, my cat's playing with the camera stand. But anyway, it's the turducken. It's all the cards fit together, and they just keep getting more powerful. Start with an 0/1 for 4. Eventually you get a 3/3, and then a 6/6, and finally a 9/9. It's weird though. I wish they'd actually put a rarity on some of these cards, because this is, I mean, these shouldn't be common, but they're tokens, so whatever. And in case that's not weird enough, on the opposite side, they're all zombies. Yay! Although that's not such a bad thing.